Hey everybody, so it's Sunday, which means it's time to look at our games of the week for this coming week in the NHL. Um, Short week this week, obviously Christmas on Tuesday, so there's no games on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday this week. So we go from today, Sunday, all the way until Thursday before there's any more games. So short week, but in a short week, there are some very, very good matchups this week, and definitely some games worth watching. So let's get right into it. Today, 12:23. There's a number of games today, but certainly Philadelphia versus the New York Rangers is one of the better games this week. This is a huge game for both of these teams. The Rangers, they're starting to fall a little bit as far in the standings, as far as trying to keep up with Pittsburgh and the Islanders. Pittsburgh and the other New York team have kind of put the Rangers down a little bit. So if the Rangers want to cling to any playoff hopes, they need to start winning some games again. They lost last night to Toronto. So it's a big game for the Rangers, and obviously it's a huge game for the Philadelphia Flyers. They seem to be turning things around. They won 2 games in a row, and really started to play noticeably better. But then they lost yesterday to Columbus, and if they lose today to the Rangers, then all of a sudden they're just 2-2 in their last 4 games, and they haven't really gained anything as far as the standings go. So Philly needs this win also if they want to make any sort of playoff push. It's a big game for both of these teams, and obviously a natural division rivalry game. So certainly one of the best games this week. So like I said, there are no games the 24th, 25th, or 26th. It's Christmas break, so Merry Christmas to everyone out there. We come back to hockey on Thursday the 27th, and there are some very good matchups on Thursday the 27th. Dallas versus Nashville, that's a huge Central Division game. Nashville has really been struggling. They've lost 4 in a row now with their loss yesterday to Boston. They need to get things turned around and back on track. Dallas, they're one of those borderline playoff teams who are trying to get into a wild card spot. So every game is big for them. They need points wherever they can get it. So huge Central Division matchup there between Dallas and Nashville. Then we have Calgary and Winnipeg. Calgary first place in the Pacific Division. Winnipeg first place in the Central Division. We have a battle of first place teams in the Western Conference. That should be a great matchup. Not a divisional rivalry, but still definitely some rivalry between those two teams. They're a Canadian rivalry for sure. So Calgary and Winnipeg should be a really good hockey game. And lastly, Anaheim versus San Jose. Anytime the California teams meet up, it's a game of the week. But it's certainly a game of the week when the 2 good California teams meet up. Anaheim's slumping recently. Anaheim had a really good 10-game stretch where they really pulled themselves into solid playoff position, and it looked like they were climbing in the Pacific Division standings. But they've lost a couple games now, and starting to even out and go back the other way a little bit. So this is a big game against a divisional opponent who is ahead of them in the standings in the San Jose Sharks. And for San Jose, they have not been as dominant, I think, as people expected them to be this season, but they're still in solid playoff position. They're right behind Calgary in the standings. They've been okay. So this is a big game against a team that's trying to catch them. So Anaheim versus San Jose, both teams in a playoff spot at this point, should be a really fun matchup. Then we go to Friday the 28th, and we have Montreal versus Florida. Divisional game. Florida, if they're going to make any sort of playoff push, they need to start winning, and they need to start winning like now. So this week is huge for Florida. They've got to get some points in the bank here and start winning some games, because they've been a .500 team all season long to this point, and that is not going to get you into the playoffs. Montreal, the second wild card team in the East, they're trying to maintain a playoff spot. And we have the Max Domi versus Aaron Ekblad situation where Domi suckered Ekblad in a preseason game. Florida said that there would be retribution for that when these teams met in the regular season. This is their first meeting of the regular season, so expect Domi to have to answer for that punch, whether Ekblad fights him himself or if someone like Michael Haley goes after Domi. Something is going to happen to Max Domi in that game. He's going to have to stand up for what he did at some point and fight somebody on Montreal or on Florida for that sucker punch in the preseason. So we'll have to see what all goes down with that. But those 2 points are really, really important to both of those teams. Then lastly, Saturday the 29th, there's some really, really good games on Saturday next week. Some fantastic matchups. First, San Jose and Edmonton. Edmonton trying to climb in the Pacific Division standings, been playing much, much better lately. San Jose, again, I've talked a lot about them. Not really as good, I don't think, as people expected, but still in second place in the Pacific, so it's not like they're a bad team. So that's a huge game, especially for Edmonton, who's trying to climb in the standings. Minnesota versus Winnipeg, playoff matchup last season. Anytime these two teams meet, it's a battle, to say the least. So that should be a really fun matchup. Plus, you have Winnipeg, who is the best team in the division right now, in first place in the Central, and Minnesota, who's out of a playoff spot. So, that's a huge game, and Minnesota would love to be able to take 2 points out of that one. Boston versus Buffalo, again, right next to each other in the Atlantic Division standings. Boston has Patrice Bergeron back. Kevin Miller and Zdeno Chara are also close to being back. They're practicing. They could be back by this game. The 29th is a few days away. One or both of them could be back for this game. Bergeron's already back. Boston is starting to get healthy. They're right behind Buffalo in the standings. This could be a huge, huge game with some important 2 points on the line. And Boston's done a good job of holding their position in the standings with all of these injuries. Now that they're healthy, they're a team that could certainly make a run. So that should be a really good matchup with Buffalo and an important 2 points on the line. And lastly, Vancouver versus Calgary, Pacific Division rivalry, Canadian rivalry, teams that don't like each other very much. And you have Vancouver, who's not a playoff team but hasn't had a bad year, and then Calgary, who's in first place right now in the Pacific. Just the rivalry between the teams makes this a game of the week. So, short week this week, only games on 4 days because we have the 3 days off for Christmas break, but nonetheless, still some very good matchups this week, and certainly some games worth watching. So, those are your games of the week, in my opinion. So, with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the link to our Patreon and the link to our merchandise store are in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.